The Vigil issue 4, Ram V writing with Sid Koshin and Dev Paramenik on the art. So the last issue raised this very big, bold idea that the team were all part of the Doctor's creation. Like, he thought them up somehow. And this issue's job was to explain that, basically. And it did a pretty good job of that. If anything, the real critique I have here is that we only have one issue left, and I feel like it just introduced a whole interesting idea that could be like a whole series, but alright.
Theoretically, this could have been an arc in a bigger story.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe there's hope for a sequel series or something, but we'll see. I mean, it starts off with the introduction to the kid, who's like he's got cold dead eyes and like sort of sees decisions ahead and can figure things out. That's his whole thing. But when we come to present day, the Doctor explains his backstory, and he's actually from further back in time. He's from like the 40s. Particularly, he was like with other scientists, and they were part of the Philadelphia experiment. And when the ship disappeared, the ship in Philadelphia, and then came back 6 minutes later, they were on that ship. They're the ones who turned on their fancy experiment, but they never came back. They were actually stranded somewhere else, somewhere like another dimension, effectively. And it turns out that they went to a place where they could will ideas into existence, and they would try to will ideas onto Earth. And it kind of worked. Like, so there's three of them. So we got a Doctor, and then we've got two other characters. A woman who was dating the third character, the guy, who turns out to be something of a villain. He effectively turns out to be the villain of the whole book. He's the one who... And this, what's so good about this is that this kind of, all of a sudden, it makes sense in retrospect. Their entire thing is like finding like, technology and devices they don't think the world should have, because this turns into this egomaniac, this villain, has been willing his ideas onto Earth. But when he first tried to do it, he would try like, there's a sky fortress, and it's like the 60s, and it would basically exist for a second and then disappear, because it was too much for the world to believe. The idea was too much. And what they realized is that you have to nudge people forward. So you have to like make them believe in like the genesis of something, and then they'll believe the next thing, because that won't seem as outlandish, and so on and so forth. And then it quickly gets to the point where this guy willed into existence the nuclear bomb, the nuclear fission, fusion, nuclear reactors. This all came from this guy willing these ideas into existence from this other dimension.
That was because part of it was stuff that they were already thinking about, right?
Yeah.
And so he was able to just, like you said, give it that nudge just to put it a little bit over. And this guy's also the villain that was introduced in the last issue. That is, the subsidiary of Luthor Corps. That's him. So he's made it out of this realm just like our Doctor did. And he's, I'm sure profiting or whatever.
It's taken him much longer because he didn't care. He was more concerned about playing God. And the woman who was there with them was originally dating him, but over their years in this dimension, she actually ended up switching to the Doctor because they were both recognizing this egomaniac's like path and what he was doing. So the Doctor basically realized that if they figure out a way to get back to Earth, that he would need backup to fight the creations that his old partner is making, these technologies that are going to lead the world to this place where he's the one in charge, where he's the one ruling it. So that's why he made the Vigil. That's why he thought up all these people, and it kind of makes sense that in this world that these people with superpowers aren't too far-fetched for the world to believe exists, because it's the DC universe. It's the world with Superman and Green Lantern and Wonder Woman and stuff.
And he even tells them how they're going to respond to this news, right?
That's not him. That's the kid.
Oh, that's the kid. That's right. That's right.
Because the kid steps in and says, you're all going to respond this way, but in the end, you're all going to realize that we have to fight this fight. We all have to band together and stop this guy. But the final little twist is that when the kid's alone with the Doctor, he turns and says, I'm not one of yours. I'm one of his. And it's like, holy shit, that's such a good little reveal. And it's one of those things where it's like, that only makes sense because of all the context that this issue spent the entire time setting up, which is that they were in this world where they could make ideas on Earth, and the other guy is trying to build the Earth in his creation, so he's making all these technologies. He's trying to inch everything forward to whatever he sees as the future of the world. And the Doctor with the Vigil are stopping all these bits of technology as best they can, and that's what they've been doing since the first time they showed up in Detective Comics. They were stopping a piece of technology that existed. So I can't believe that madman Ram V has given me an explanation here that justifies everything they've been doing since the first time they appeared. The mad bastard.
He has he's going to that realm. That's the only explanation. This is him explaining where he gets his powers from. So the whole idea of the kid, right, being of the main villain's idea, it fits in because that guy is very, very much believes in like this cold and calculating view of technology.
Which is very much what this kid is he's very cold and can see the outcomes and make predictions and stuff. Because
his introduction is there's these kids bullying this dog, and he just throws a rock and kills the dog, which is very sad for me as a dog person, right? But it was this whole idea of the greater good was they were going to torture that dog, so I had to put it out of its misery before it could get to that. And it's this very kind of dark, but it makes sense, and it kind of troubles the Doctor. You can tell that he talks about it. And so knowing that he came from the other guy, you look back at that scene and it all clicks.
Yeah, but it also kind of works in this way where, so the Doctor then convinces him that, but you could have done something else, and he's like, after the kids then beat me up, I realized I should have thrown the rocks at them, but then you realize that that's also futile because they'd eventually just hit you harder, it would spread, it would keep going, and you almost get the feeling like if the Doctor can convince the bad guy's creation that to him, if he can convince this kid, no, this is the greater good and we have to work against this, it's maybe a sign that in some level, maybe someday you can convince the bad guy. If you can convince the bad guy's creation, who logically this kid has worked out that they should work for the greater good, then maybe the bad guy one day can be brought back down to reality. Maybe one day they can convince him, like the path you're leading us all on is just effectively killing the dog. It's not actually going to solve all the problems you think it is. So that learning experience for this kid and the doc being there to kind of like push him in a certain direction. But they're all pissed about it. Even the guy who like funds their operation, he's one of his creations. He basically made a creation who could fund all of their their antics, which is kind of funny to me. But no, this is turned into a very interesting mythology. This team and this character, and it's fun because when he's talking about like all the different characters and who they are, like where is it here? He's like, so I thought of Dynamo, the man who felt no pain and could regenerate his body endlessly. I thought of Arclight, whose skin could conduct vast amounts of electrical energy. Like it feels like there's something bigger being crafted here with this miniseries that I really hope we get some sort of follow up to, because I can't imagine it's all going to be neatly wrapped up in one more issue.
No, it does feel like one of those things that he could put these characters out into the world and other creatives could play with them. But if these characters also showed up in his next whatever that he's doing, in addition to Detective, I wouldn't be surprised either, because they fit very in with his whole concept of ideas and beliefs from Swamp Thing.
I mean, he just signed an exclusive DC contract, so it's entirely possible that part of that contract was that he gets to use these characters either in a sequel, or maybe this is all prelude to them being a big part of, like you say, a new book that's it's headlined by another big character, but they become the supporting cast in it, or maybe even the villains in it, depending on how what the story is. So I think that's really interesting, actually.
Me too.
But you're right, this idea of ideas, it's been in Swamp Thing, it's been in his Detective, and it's obviously here, so really fascinating. So yeah, art's good. Not exceptional by any means. Obviously the artist has changed a couple times on this book, or at least changed and changed back. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and check the names of the previous. This was definitely a different art team than the previous issue.
Yeah, it's not Sumit Kumar, who has been doing it. So
yeah, I don't think it was him on the last issue either. I think I think they've been going a couple of issues now. But really, really fun stuff that was making my brain kind of go. I was really like, I read this almost last, and it was like hitting me with all these big ideas, and I'm like, oh Jesus, this is super interesting. But that is the Vigil. What were you rating the Vigil, Matt, out of 10?
8.5.
Yeah. I think I agree with that. The ideas are just super interesting. So 8.5 for me as well.